I told my best friend that her husband was cheating with my brother. What happened next broke all of us. AITA, I wasn't prepared for what I saw when I opened that hotel room door. My heart dropped into my stomach as I stood frozen in the doorway, my hand still on the knob, and my eyes locked on the scene unfolding before me. There in the middle of the room was my best friend's husband, Nathan, tangled up with my brother Jason. They weren't just talking. They weren't just hanging out. They were entwined in each other, faces flushed, breath coming too fast for anything innocent. My mind raced, struggling to process what was happening. I must have been hallucinating. This couldn't be real. But the sharp, sickening truth settled in like a weight. I pulled out my phone, hands shaking so badly I could barely snap a picture. I wasn't sure if I needed proof for myself or for later, but I couldn't look away. I focused, clicked a few shots, and I swear I could hear the shutter sound echo in the silence of my brain. I backed away slowly, careful not to make a noise, heart pounding in my ears, mind reeling. I couldn't breathe. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't confront them now, not like this. I turned and fled, trying to steady my pulse as I left the hotel room. The images still burned into my mind. When I got back to my place, I tried to work, tried to focus on anything else, but nothing made sense anymore. Every word in the email I was supposed to be reading blurred together. The air felt thick with guilt, confusion, and betrayal. How long had this been going on? How had I not seen it? How was I supposed to process this mess? I couldn't stop thinking about it, couldn't shake the feeling of being pulled between two sides. My best friend was married to Nathan, a man who, in a cruel twist of fate, was also sleeping with my brother. What did I owe her? What did I owe Jason? I'd known both of them my whole life. How could I protect them without destroying both their worlds? The idea of telling my friend, of watching her break, made my chest tighten with panic. But keeping this secret was eating me alive. What if it tore everything apart? I didn't know how long I sat there, lost in thought. Hours maybe. I didn't have an answer. All I knew was I couldn't ignore it. Not anymore. I couldn't put it off any longer. I had to talk to Jason. I found him in the kitchen, standing at the counter like he hadn't just betrayed everything we'd ever been to each other. He looked up when I came in, a slight frown on his face. He didn't know I knew, didn't know I had pictures of him with Nathan. It felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, and the only way down was to confront him. "Hey," I said, my voice rougher than I expected. "Hey, what's up?" He took a step toward me, but I held my ground. I wasn't sure if I was trembling from anger or the guilt still gnawing at my insides. "Sit down. We need to talk," I said, my tone leaving no room for negotiation. His eyebrows furrowed, and he crossed his arms. "What's this about?" I pulled out my phone, the pictures still fresh in my mind, and showed him the screen. His face went pale the second he saw them, and I could feel his body stiffen. "Shit," he muttered under his breath, sinking into the chair across from me. I waited for him to say something, anything, but he didn't, so I pushed harder. "How long, Jason?" He swallowed hard, staring at the photos like they could suddenly disappear. I don't know what you want me to say." "Start with the truth," I snapped. "How long have you been sleeping with Nathan?" He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Then his shoulders slumped. He sighed deeply, rubbing his face with both hands. "Since last year. It wasn't supposed to happen like this." My stomach turned and the disgust flooded me. "Are you serious? You're screwing my best friend's husband, and you think it wasn't supposed to happen? What the hell is wrong with you?" Jason looked at me then, his face a mix of guilt and frustration. "I didn't want to hurt anyone. I never meant for it to get like this. You know how things have been with Sarah, it's been bad for a while. We've been drifting for months." I shook my head, unable to wrap my mind around it. "So what? You go and sleep with Nathan? How does that even make sense, Jason?" "I didn't go looking for this. It just happened." He ran a hand through his hair, clearly trying to find words that might make this any better. "I'm not proud of it, but I'm unhappy, okay? I never wanted to hurt anyone, especially not you or Sarah. I swear." I stared at him, disgust growing with every word. "You think that makes it okay? You think being unhappy excuses this?" "No," he said, voice cracking, but he was pleading now, desperate for me to understand. "I didn't mean for it to get out of control like this. I swear I never wanted to hurt anyone. I just needed someone. I wanted to scream at him, to shake him until he understood how wrong this was. But I didn't. I just sat there feeling hollow. You're asking me not to tell anyone, aren't you? He looked at me, eyes wide with panic. Please. Please don't tell Sarah. She doesn't deserve this. I'll figure it out, I swear. Just don't say anything. Not yet. I felt the weight of his plea settle in my chest, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. How could he even ask that of me? The guilt I already carried only grew heavier. I don't know what the hell you expect me to do with this, Jason. You want me to protect you? To protect Nathan? You're both lying to her, to everyone. I never meant to lie. I never meant for it to go this far. But please don't tell her. Not yet, he begged. I didn't know what to say. I couldn't stand him right now, couldn't wrap my head around the fact that my own brother had done this. And now he was asking me to keep it a secret? To protect him? To keep the lie alive? I don't know, I muttered, standing up and pacing away from him. I had no idea what to do next. The weight of everything pressed down on me, the lies, the betrayal, and the people I loved now shattered in front of me. I wanted to protect my friend, but I couldn't shake the feeling that, in doing so, I might destroy my family. I felt more lost than I had in my entire life. The next few days were a blur of forced normalcy. I spent time with Sarah, my best friend, like nothing had changed. We met for lunch, talked about work, and she even mentioned how excited she was for her anniversary trip with Nathan. She's been planning it for months, she said, her eyes bright with excitement. We're going to Napa. It'll be so nice to get away together, just the two of us. We really need it. I wanted to scream. Instead, I nodded, smiling tightly, trying not to let my emotions slip. That sounds great, I said, my voice coming out too flat. You two deserve it. But as she spoke about the trip, my insides twisted. Every word felt like a dagger. Nathan, her husband, was the one I was supposed to protect her from. And I was sitting there, pretending everything was fine, knowing the truth would tear her apart. I stayed up late those nights, unable to sleep, my mind racing. I'd replay the conversation with Jason over and over, his apologies and excuses ringing in my ears. I never meant to hurt anyone. I'm not proud of it. But it didn't matter. What mattered was that he had betrayed everyone. His wife, my best friend, me. And now he wanted me to keep his secret. I couldn't keep lying. I couldn't keep pretending like everything was okay when it wasn't. The guilt gnawed at me. I hated myself for it. But I couldn't ignore the reality of what was happening. How much longer could I live with this? I had to make a decision. I wasn't going to keep his secret forever, and I sure as hell wasn't going to protect him from the consequences of his actions. The guilt was suffocating. I didn't want to be the one to blow everything up, but what other choice did I have? I couldn't look at Sarah in the eye anymore without feeling like I was betraying her. And Jason? He hadn't changed, not really. He still thought he could get away with it all, that he could just apologize and move on. I called him. It was late, too late for anyone to be awake, but I didn't care. I wasn't going to wait anymore. I'm done, Jason, I said, my voice low and sharp. I'm not sitting on this anymore. You have a week to tell Sarah. If you don't, I will. There was a long pause on the other end. What? No, you can't. I'm not kidding, I interrupted, my pulse pounding in my ears. I won't keep quiet. You don't get to drag me into your mess. You don't get to keep her in the dark while you keep sleeping with Nathan. He swore under his breath. Please, just give me more time. I can't. No, I said, the anger rising in my throat. You had plenty of time. It's over. Tell her or I will. 1 week, Jason. You're not getting another day. I can't, he said, voice cracking. I can't do that to her. You don't understand. If I tell her, it's all over. You'll ruin everything. You ruined everything, I snapped. You and Nathan. You don't get to make her the last to know. You don't get to make me the one who keeps this secret any longer. Another long silence. Then in a much smaller voice, Jason said, I never wanted to hurt anyone. I exhaled sharply, shaking my head even though he couldn't see me. You've already hurt everyone, Jason. And if you think keeping quiet is going to fix this, you're wrong. You've got a week. I hung up, staring at my phone for a few seconds. I wasn't sure if I felt relieved or more conflicted than ever. I didn't want to ruin everything, but Jason had made his bed, and now he had to lie in it. No more running. No more hiding. It was time for him to face the music. And if he didn't, I would make sure he did. But telling Sarah? That was a whole different level of hell. And I wasn't sure I was ready for it. The phone call ended, but the tension hung in the air like thick smoke. I felt sick to my stomach, but I stood my ground. A week. Jason had a week to do the right thing, or I would. The next day, I didn't expect Jason to show up at my place, but there he was, standing at my door when I got home from work. His face was twisted with anger, his hands shoved deep into his pockets like he was trying to control himself. "I told you to give me more time," he snapped as soon as I opened the door. "I didn't invite him in. You had a week, Jason. A whole week." He stepped forward, his voice low but intense. "You can't do this. You can't expose everything like that. You don't understand what it will do to her, what it'll do to me." I crossed my arms. "You're the one who put us all in this position. Not me." His jaw clenched and his eyes narrowed. "You think I'm okay with this? You think I'm proud of what I've done?" He shook his head, pacing back and forth. "You're not listening. If this gets out, it'll ruin everything. Sarah will never look at me the same. I can't lose everything over one mistake." "One mistake?" I shot back, feeling the anger start to boil. "This wasn't a mistake, Jason. You've been lying to her for months. And Nathan, you think this is just some one-time thing?" He stopped pacing, his eyes hardening as he glared at me. "You don't get it. If you tell her it's over, everything is over. You're going to destroy my life and hers. Do you understand that? You think this is easy for me?" I stepped forward, my own anger rising. "I'm not here to make it easier for you, Jason. I'm not here to protect you or Nathan anymore. You're the one who has to live with the mess you've made. Not me. And certainly not Sarah." He took a deep breath, running his hands through his hair. Please just give me more time. I'll fix this. I swear I'll fix it." I didn't know if he believed his own words or if he was just stalling, but I didn't care anymore. "You've had more than enough time. I'm not giving you another second. You've got a week to tell her, or I will." He laughed bitterly, but there was no humor in it. "You're unbelievable. You're going to ruin everything. You're going to destroy our family. Don't you get it? You're being selfish." The word stung, but I didn't flinch. "Selfish? How about you? You've been selfish, Jason. You've been lying to her and to everyone, and now you're trying to drag me into your bullshit. I'm done being part of this. You take responsibility for your actions, or I will." He moved closer, his voice rising. "You're not helping. You're not fixing anything. You're making it worse, so much worse." I met his gaze, my voice steady but furious. "I'm making it worse? You're the one who couldn't keep it in your pants. You're the one who's tearing everything apart. I'm not the one who has to explain myself to Sarah. You do. And if you don't, I will." He didn't say anything for a moment, just stood there, looking at me like I'd betrayed him. But there was something else in his eyes too, something I couldn't quite place. "You don't understand," he said, voice quiet now, almost pleading. "You don't know what it's like being stuck in a marriage that's falling apart. Sarah, she doesn't see it. She doesn't feel it the way I do." "I don't care." I shot back, my chest tight with the weight of it all. "This isn't about you, Jason. This is about her. About what she deserves. And she deserves to know the truth. She deserves more than you lying to her face every day." Jason's expression hardened, and he took a step back, shaking his head. "You really don't get it, do you? You're ruining my life." I felt a sick knot in my stomach as I watched him retreat. I wanted to punch something. I wanted to scream. But instead I stood there, forcing myself not to break down. "You had a choice, Jason," I said, the words biting with the weight of everything I felt. "Now it's my turn." He looked at me one last time, eyes full of anger and betrayal. "You're making a huge mistake. You'll regret this." I didn't say anything else. I just watched him leave, the door closing softly behind him. The silence in the room was deafening. The weight of what I'd just done settled in my bones, and I felt more isolated than ever. But I knew I couldn't back down now. A few days after I'd given Jason the ultimatum, I woke up to a message from him. I need more time. It wasn't a question. It was a demand, and something inside me snapped. I stared at the screen for a long moment, disgusted by his cowardice. More time? What the hell for? He had a week and now he wanted more? He was stalling and he knew it. He wasn't going to do it. He wasn't going to tell her. I should have called him, should have laid into him again. But the thought of hearing his voice only made me angrier. That night Sarah texted me. She wanted me to come over for a family dinner. My stomach churned. I hadn't seen her since I'd started unraveling everything, and I wasn't sure I could pretend any longer. But there was no way to say no. Not without raising suspicion. When I walked into her house later that evening, everything felt wrong. Sarah was practically glowing, excited about the anniversary trip she and Nathan had planned. She was beaming as she told me about the vineyard they were visiting, the wine tasting she was looking forward to, how she couldn't wait to spend some real quality time with Nathan. I smiled at her, nodding along like a good friend, but inside I was screaming. It was killing me. The way she was completely unaware of the betrayal that was happening right under her nose. Her life, her marriage, everything she believed in was built on lies. And I was standing there, smiling like I was in on the joke. At the dinner table, Nathan laughed and joked, making small talk like everything was just normal. He had no idea how close I was to pulling the rug out from under him. He had no idea how I knew what he'd done. His hands rested casually on his wine glass, his voice too steady, too relaxed. I couldn't stop the nausea rising in my throat. It took everything in me to focus on the conversation instead of the knot in my stomach. "So what about you?" Sarah asked, her eyes lighting up as she turned to me. "Any big plans for the weekend?" I blinked, caught off guard. No. Just catching up on work. You know how it is." She smiled like everything was perfect in the world. "You should take some time for yourself, though. You deserve it." Her words cut through me and I nearly choked on my wine. Deserve it? Sarah deserved the truth. She deserved to know everything. My eyes flicked over to Nathan, who was smiling like a man who didn't have a care in the world. I couldn't stop myself from studying him, watching how his gaze softened every time Sarah looked at him. He didn't even know I knew. He didn't know how close he was to losing it all. "I'm just glad you two are getting a break," I said, my voice too tight. "It's good to see you happy." I couldn't lie to her anymore. I couldn't sit through another dinner pretending everything was okay while I knew what was coming. The guilt ate at me. It clawed at me, relentless, suffocating. Every laugh they shared felt like a knife to the gut. I wanted to scream, to tell her right then what Nathan had been doing with my brother. But I couldn't. Not in front of Nathan. Not in front of her. I excused myself to the bathroom a little while later, locking the door behind me. I stood in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection, at the person I had become. I hated this. I hated myself for keeping this secret. I knew what I had to do. The words had been sitting on the tip of my tongue for days, and now they were bursting to come out. I couldn't wait any longer. I had to tell her. Now. I sent Jason a quick message, barely thinking as my fingers typed out the words. "I'm telling her tomorrow." The response came quickly. "Please don't do this. You don't know what you're doing." I didn't care. It was already too late. I walked back into the dining room, where Sarah was still talking about the trip, still smiling. I gave her a tight smile in return, but it felt like a mask. I wasn't sure how much longer I could keep it up. As the night went on, I knew I was running out of time. And no matter how hard it was, no matter how much it hurt, I couldn't let her stay in the dark anymore. Tomorrow everything would change. The next morning I couldn't wait any longer. My hand shook as I typed out the text, asking Sarah to come over. "Hey, can you come by today? I need your help with something. Nothing big, just a few things around here." It was a lie. But it was the only way I could get her to come without raising any suspicions. The truth was I couldn't keep this to myself anymore. I had to tell her what Nathan had been doing, and what my brother had done. When she arrived later that afternoon, I barely recognized myself. I felt like a stranger in my own skin. I opened the door to her cheerful smile, trying to summon something that resembled normalcy. "Hey, what's going on?" she asked, stepping inside with a bag of groceries. I nodded, forcing a smile, even though my insides were twisted in knots. "Hey, not much. Just thought you could help me sort through some stuff." She looked at me, sensing the shift in my demeanor. Are you okay? You seem off. I'm fine, I lied. My voice was barely above a whisper. Just need to talk. She set the groceries down, concern creeping into her face. What's wrong? I led her to the living room, the place where everything would come to a head. The moment felt too heavy, too suffocating, and I could barely breathe. She sat on the couch and I stood in front of her, unable to make eye contact. I don't even know how to say this. I started, my voice catching on the words I'd rehearsed in my head 1,000 times. But you need to know something about Nathan. Her expression shifted, confusion clouding her features. What do you mean? What about him? I pulled out my phone, my hands trembling as I unlocked it and scrolled to the photos and texts. I handed it to her silently, my heart in my throat. She took the phone, her brow furrowing as she started to scroll through the images. Her eyes moved faster as she read the texts, her fingers stopping only when they landed on the pictures of Nathan and Jason together, tangled up in each other, clearly more than just friends. It felt like the air was sucked out of the room. I watched her face, waiting for the first sign of recognition, of understanding. She stopped scrolling, staring at the screen as the color drained from her face. She didn't say anything at first, just stared. And then slowly, her hands started to shake. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. I couldn't bear the silence. Sarah, I'm so sorry. I didn't want to be the one to tell you this, but you need to know. Nathan's been having an affair with Jason, my brother, for months. Her hands dropped to her lap, and she blinked like she was trying to force the truth back into some kind of reality where it made sense. But it didn't make sense. She looked at me then, eyes wide, lips trembling. No, this isn't. No way. I'm so sorry, I repeated, my voice breaking. I didn't want to be the one to tell you this. I didn't want it to be me, but you deserve to know. She shook her head again, her whole body shaking now. Her breath came out in sharp, shallow gasps. This isn't real. This isn't real. You're lying. You have to be lying. I wish I was, I whispered. I wish I was lying. But I'm not. She stood up suddenly, backing away from me. The phone fell from her hands and hit the floor with a sickening thud. Her hands went to her face and she started to cry, her sobs coming out in jagged bursts. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't watch her fall apart like this. Sarah, I didn't want to hurt you. I never wanted to hurt you. But you needed to know. She didn't respond, just curled into herself, sobbing harder. The sound gutted me. I wanted to take it all back, take away the pain I'd caused, but I couldn't. I had to tell her the truth, even if it broke her. Even if it broke me too. I stepped toward her, hesitating before I kneeled down in front of her, trying to offer some kind of comfort. Sarah, please. I'm so sorry. She looked at me through her tear-streaked face, her voice hoarse, broken. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Why did you wait until now? I didn't know how to answer that. I didn't know how to explain that I'd been carrying the weight of this secret, torn between loyalty to her and to my own family. That the guilt of keeping it from her had eaten me alive. But it didn't matter now. It was too late for apologies. I thought maybe Jason would do the right thing. I said quietly, the words coming out too slowly. But he didn't. And I couldn't let you keep living this lie. She collapsed against me, her sobs racking her body. I held her as best as I could, knowing there was nothing I could do to undo the damage, nothing I could say to make it better. I had shattered her world. And all I could do now was sit with her as the pieces fell apart. The days after I told Sarah felt like I was drowning in guilt. She didn't speak to me for days. Not a word. The silence between us was worse than anything I could have imagined. It felt like she was gone, lost somewhere in her own grief, and I wasn't sure if I'd ever get her back. I spent my days at work, but it was all a blur. I couldn't focus. I kept hearing her cries in my head, seeing the look of devastation on her face. The guilt didn't let up. I kept replaying it all, the moment I told her, the way she looked at me like I was a stranger. I had to live with that. And then Jason called. The moment I saw his name on my phone, my stomach dropped. I almost didn't answer, but I knew I had to. Are you insane? He shouted the second I picked up. You had no right. You had no fucking right to tell her. I closed my eyes, bracing myself. Jason, I didn't have a choice. You ruined everything. She's going to leave me, you know that, right? You've destroyed everything I worked for. What the hell is wrong with you? I didn't want this, Jason. I didn't want it to go this far. You should have told her. I gave you a week and you did nothing. You left me no choice. I left you no choice? He spat. You should have kept your mouth shut. This is on you. You ruined my family. You ruined my life. His words stung, but they weren't as sharp as I expected. I was so beyond angry that I just couldn't react. It wasn't even about him anymore. It was about Sarah. You need to take responsibility for what you did, Jason. Not me. Fuck you. I'm not the one who's going to lose everything. You're the one who fucked it all up. I bit my lip, fighting back the urge to yell. I didn't fuck anything up. You did. And you're going to have to face the consequences of that. I'm done protecting you. There was a long silence and I almost thought he'd hung up. But then he muttered something just barely audible. You'll regret this. I didn't answer. I just hung up. The tension in the air between all of us was suffocating. I could barely even look at my own family. Every time I saw one of them, I felt like they could see the weight I was carrying, the mess I'd caused. I couldn't face my parents. I couldn't face anyone. The last thing I wanted was to explain myself. I was too ashamed of what had happened. But then Sarah called. I saw her name flash on my screen, and for a moment, I thought about ignoring it. She was probably still furious with me, and part of me wanted to avoid hearing what she had to say. But I knew I couldn't. Not this time. I answered, my voice tight. Hey. There was a long pause. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. I don't know what to say. I swallowed hard, trying to hold it together. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I never wanted to hurt you. You have to believe me. I don't know how everything went so wrong, she said, her voice breaking. You were my best friend. You were supposed to be the one I could trust. And now I feel like I don't know who anyone is. I felt a lump form in my throat. I know I've messed up. But I couldn't keep it from you. You deserve the truth. I never thought it would end like this. I just keep asking myself, how long has this been going on? How long did I not see it? She sounded so broken, so lost, and I wanted to reach through the phone and hold her, but I couldn't. I had no right to comfort her. Not after what I'd done. I'm sorry, I repeated, the words coming out like a prayer. I'm sorry I hurt you. I never meant to destroy everything. I couldn't let you keep living a lie. She didn't say anything for a long time. I could hear her breathing, but there were no words. It felt like the distance between us had widened even more. Finally, she spoke again, her voice so small I almost didn't hear it. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. But I knew she was right. I'd ruined everything and I couldn't take it back. I couldn't undo what I had done. I'll understand if you need space, I said, barely able to keep my voice steady. I'll always be here for you. No matter what. There was another long pause, and I thought maybe she wasn't going to say anything more. But then she spoke, her voice barely a whisper. I don't know what's going to happen now. I don't know if I can forgive you. And that was it. I didn't know what else to say. I didn't know if there was anything I could say. So I just let her go, not knowing where that left us. The guilt stayed with me, a weight I couldn't shake. But I couldn't help but tell myself that I had done the right thing. Even if it didn't feel like it. Even if I had lost her trust forever. She deserved to know the truth. Even if it meant losing everything I cared about. A few days after I told Sarah, it became official. Jason and his wife, Sarah's best friend, separated. I couldn't even bring myself to look at them when I saw them at the courthouse. The kids were with their grandmother, but it was clear what this was doing to them. Their whole world was shattered. They were too young to understand, but old enough to feel it. The tension, the sadness, the coldness that had settled into their home. Every time I saw them, I felt the weight of what I'd done. I hadn't protected them. I hadn't shielded them from the truth. And now they were caught in the middle of something they didn't deserve. Jason's house was quiet, empty in a way I hadn't seen before. The kids didn't know where to turn, and neither did I. I tried to help as best I could, but there was no easy way to undo the damage. The family dynamics had collapsed so fast, there was no putting it back together. I tried to make myself useful, offering to take the kids out to keep them occupied for a little while, but there was no real escape from what was happening. The silence in the house was suffocating. Jason avoided me when I was around, his eyes cold, his shoulders stiff. He couldn't look at me the same way anymore, and neither could I. My relationship with him was over. I could feel it in every interaction. The years of trust, the bond we once shared, it was gone. I didn't know if it was his guilt or his anger toward me, but whatever it was, it had driven a wedge between us that nothing could fix. I couldn't apologize enough to make him forgive me for telling the truth. I couldn't erase the fact that I had exposed his lie. And, in his mind, that was unforgivable. Then there was Sarah. I hadn't seen her for a couple of days after the confrontation. I called her, texted her, but she wouldn't respond. I didn't know if she was avoiding me, or if she was just too heartbroken to talk. When she finally reached out, it was brief, her voice still raw. "I don't know what to do with myself anymore," she said. Her voice sounded small, broken, like it wasn't even her. "Everything I thought I knew. It's gone. Nathan. I don't even recognize him anymore." I could feel her grief through the phone, like a heavy weight pressing down on me. I wanted to say something, anything that would make her feel better, but there was nothing. I had no words of comfort for her. How could I? I was the one who had torn everything apart. "I'm so sorry, Sarah. I wish I could fix it, but I can't. I couldn't let you keep living in the dark. You deserve to know." "I don't know if I can forgive you," she said softly, almost to herself. "I can't even think straight right now. I'm so angry. At him. At you. At everyone." "I know," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I'll be here whenever you're ready to talk." But I knew it was never going to be the same. The damage was done. Our friendship, the one we'd built over years of shared memories, wasn't something I could repair with a few words. As the days passed, Sarah became more distant. She kept herself busy, her focus on keeping the kids together, on making it through the day. She didn't want to deal with me, and I couldn't blame her. Every time I reached out, she pulled away a little more. The guilt weighed heavily on me. The more I tried to comfort her, the more she seemed to retreat into herself. I was just another reminder of the broken pieces of her life, and I hated that I had become that. But at the same time, I couldn't go back. I had done the right thing, hadn't I? She deserved to know, even if it meant losing everything. I spent the next few days walking through my own personal hell. The fallout from what I'd done was everywhere, and I was caught in the middle of it. My family had torn apart. My best friend was grieving, and I was the one who had set it all in motion. I couldn't fix it. I couldn't undo it. And yet I couldn't shake the feeling that I had no choice. The truth had come out, and it was too late to go back. But as much as I knew I'd done the right thing, it didn't feel right. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like everything had fallen apart. Months passed, but the weight of everything still sat heavy on my chest. The phone calls, the silences, the guilt. Nothing ever quite went away. I kept telling myself I did the right thing, but that didn't make it easier to live with. Jason started seeing someone new shortly after everything blew up. I didn't know her, and honestly, I didn't care. It just added to the tension. Every time I heard about his new relationship, it was like another punch in the gut. How could he move on so easily? Like it was nothing. But then, maybe it was easier for him, not having to face the fallout of his actions every damn day. I had to cut him out of my life. Every interaction with him felt like a betrayal. He'd broken the trust we'd had, and no matter how many times I told myself I did the right thing, it didn't erase the anger or the sadness. Sarah had started therapy. At first, I wasn't sure if she'd ever be the same. The change in her was impossible to ignore. She was quieter, more distant, like she was always just a little bit removed from the world around her. But she was rebuilding. Slowly. Day by day, she picked up the pieces of her life. Even though I knew it would never be whole again, she had to face the loss of everything she thought she knew. Her marriage, her family, her best friend. I still stayed in touch with her, but it wasn't the same. How could it be? We tried to talk like we used to, but the conversations always felt hollow. The shared history between us was fractured. And I couldn't ignore that we would never be able to go back to how it was before. She was hurting, and so was I, in my own way. We both were trying to move forward, but the scars were there, both inside her and inside me. Some days I felt like I was walking through a fog. I went through the motions, work errands, trying to keep my head above water, but it was all a blur. I'd lost so much. My brother, my best friend, my family in a way had been torn apart. There were times when I wished I could go back and make a different choice, take a different path. But I knew I couldn't. The truth had come out, and there was no undoing that. I tried not to think about it too much, but I couldn't help it. I had lost something that I thought would always be there. And it hurt. Every single day it hurt. I still told myself I did the right thing. Sarah deserved to know. Nathan deserved to be exposed. But even though I told myself that over and over, it never made the pain of losing them any less real. The weight of it stayed with me. The guilt of knowing I couldn't protect her. The guilt of knowing that I might never be the same with my brother again. It lingered in every quiet moment. The road to healing felt like an endless stretch of pavement, one that I wasn't sure I'd ever reach the end of. But somehow I had to keep moving forward. Even when it felt like the past was all I had left.